I'm sure 99.99% of Elden Ring players, among which I count myself, have definitely missed a very huge detail in Farum Azula. I stumbled upon the following post on Reddit where someone asked about the corpse of Placidusax. After I read it, I was very confused and decided to check it out for myself. And before you know it, there is in fact the corpse of Placidusax within the described spot, which got me thinking about Farum Azula in general. For starters, why is his corpse here? And if he's already dead, how are we actually capable of fighting him? The answer is rather simple, but extremely convoluted. What we see here is in fact another detail of the strange flow of time within Farum Azula. Within the description of the Old Lord's talisman, we learn that Placidusax's seed lies beyond time. This isn't just a neat little lore detail, however, but rather a major hint as to why Farum Azula is so different from any other place in Elden Ring. Meaning, it has some very unique and interesting time effects. For example, have you ever noticed that the area is always engulfed in light and that we never see the moon or night sky? The game mechanic of a day and night cycle is utterly missing. Also strange are the Crucible Knights in this area who exert some strange behavior. The first one we discover is standing before the corpse of a slain dragon, which arguably isn't too strange considering the other Crucible Knights we encounter. But more on that later. However, the other knight close by shows something strange. The Crucible Knight in this location is engaging in a fight with the Beastman. And to my knowledge, this is the only instance we see the Crucible Knights fighting something other than us, the Tarnished. To point out even more strange occurrences though, how come that Malakath resides at two different locations? The spot where every player will meet him is in his boss arena, with the Bestial Sanctum located in Dragonbarrow, north of Caelid, being very missable. More interesting, however, is that even after you have killed Malakath in Farum Azula, you can still visit and interact with him at this location in Caelid, with Placidusax being the same in this regard, though instead you can see him before and even after you have fought him. All of these points show us the major theme of this legacy dungeon, its state of being beyond time and as a result incorporating different time slots of different eras. The aspect which gave me this idea in the first place was the Crucible Knight fighting the Beastman. I asked myself as to why he would fight the Beastman group. What is the reason for these two parties to engage in combat? The war between the Golden Order and the Ancient Dragons is the only logical reason where the Order fought against dragons like Placidusax, Granzisax, Fortisax, and so on. And with this information in mind, all of the pieces begin to slowly fall together. It explains as to why the Golden Order's Crucible Knights engage the Beastmen, servants of the Ancient Dragons, in combat. This historical event even further correlates with the Crucible Knight standing before the slain corpse of an ancient dragon, since they are among the elite forces of the Golden Order and under the command of its most powerful warrior Godfrey. It is plausible that they could fight against dragons and even manage to kill a few. In addition, with the other anomalies, like the positions of Malakath and Placidusax, as well as the missing day and night cycle, we can even further assess the flow of time. The only logical conclusion, consolidating all of these points, is that while we traverse Farum Azula, we simultaneously travel between different eras in time. And with all of this in mind, we can very accurately determine as to why Placidusax's corpse can be found within a stone wall. Godfrey fought Placidusax in the past in order to claim the title of Elden Lord, as well as establishing the Golden Order as the new ruling faction in the lands between, a battle that most likely took place during the war between the Golden Order and the Ancient Dragons. We already know the outcome of this particular fight since Godfrey became the first Elden Lord of the Golden Order. As such, he killed Placidusax in this battle and we encounter his corpse here in Farum Azula. And by using the area's convoluted flow of time, we can even reverse time back to a point where we can encounter a living version of him. As to why we are capable of such a deed is pure speculation, and you're welcome to share your thoughts with me in the comments. And although I could end here, I want to go even further with my point about Godfrey vs Placidusax. I believe that the fight between Godfrey and Placidusax was so intense that Farum Azula separated from the rest of the continent. Evidence being the gaping hole between Caelid and the Altus Plateau with Liurnia to the east. This hole fits rather well under a landmass which has been there in the past, with the Divine Towers being another indicator herefore. These towers predate the architectural designs of the Golden Order within Leyndell. They most certainly date back to the time of the Crucible when Placidusax was the ruling Elden Lord. As such, building the Divine Towers around the heart of the then capital of the Lands Between makes perfect sense. Furthermore, it also explains as to why the Divine Tower of Malenia's Great Rune resides in the middle of the ocean, with a portal being the only way of accessing it. Keeping also the circular shape in mind, when connecting all of the Divine Towers, it also marks whatever was within the circle as a divine center, which perfectly fits the fact that Placidusax served a god, aka the Crucible, who embodied the dominant religion in the prehistoric era of the Lands Between. And let's not forget about the Bestiary Sanction, which was obviously part of Farum Azula at one point in time. But now it is only reduced to a singular tower with ruins at its back leading down into the ocean. With little room to argue this as the place where Farum Azula resided in the past, the last question to answer is how the battle between Godfrey and Placidusax split the lands apart, which coincides with how Placidusax's corpse is buried under rocks. Godfrey's attacks can be intense enough to shake and even crack the earth. Combined with the insane lightning attacks of Placidusax, possessing very destructive firing capacity, it isn't too far-fetched to assume that these two entities can reshape the continent by having an all-out battle in their prime forms. And with Placidusax's corpse being buried underneath the earth, we know for a fact that Godfrey didn't hold back and possibly buried Placidusax alive in his final moments, resulting in the Placidusax corpse asset we see in the rock wall of Farum Azula. And this marks the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and became like me aware of this extremely subtle detail. Consider subscribe and maybe check out some of my other videos. So, maybe until next time and have a nice day. Ciao.